Hello, this is the third chapter of my book, The Baha'i Faith, A Short History. This one dealing with the Bābī movement, with the development of a new religion. This chapter contains 4 sections: the Bab's changing fortunes, Tabriz and Badasht, Bābī laws and the Bayan, and later Bābī Doctrine. As with chapter 2, I'm going to divide it into 2 sections for ease of recording. So, the Bab's changing fortunes. The Bab's confinement under house arrest in Shiraz ended in September 1846, when he was able to leave the city amidst the confusion caused by an outbreak of cholera. He travelled straight to Esfahan, where he became the guest of the province's powerful governor, Manusher Khan. A Christian convert to Islam, Manusher Khan is said to have become an ardent supporter of the Bab, taking him under his protection and promising to arrange a meeting with the Shah. Political motivations on the governor's part may also have been involved, of course. A popular holy man could attract political support for his patron. The ulama of Esfahan were opposed to the Bab, and despite the sympathy of the Friday prayer leader, that's the Imam Jome, condemned the Bab as an apostate. In this, they gained the support of the Shah's chief minister, Haji Mirza Aghasi, an enemy of Manusher Khan. Faced with Aghasi's order to send the Bab to Tehran, Manusher Khan instead concealed him in his own apartments, awaiting events. The Bab's hopes of gaining the Shah's support were soon dashed. Manusher Khan died in February 1847, and the Bab now had no protector. Meanwhile, although Muhammad Shah expressed the wish to meet the Shirazi saint, it was his chief minister who determined events. Accordingly, the Bab was brought towards Tehran under armed escort, but then with fresh instructions was taken to the remote prison fortress of Marku, a place under Aghasi's control near Iran's northwestern border with Ottoman Anatolia and Russian Transcaucasia. He remained in Marku from the summer of 1847 until the spring of 1848. Aghasi's own antagonism towards the Bab was perhaps at first motivated by the danger that the Babis were seen to pose to public order by their preaching. Underlying this, however, is likely to have been his fear of the influence that the Bab might be able to exert on the Shah. Aghasi's own position relied on his role as the Shah's Sufi master, and he was already widely unpopular with other members of the Raja elite. He did not wish to be displaced. The Bab's imprisonment in Marku marked a dramatic change in fortune, and whilst he continued to petition the Shah, he was now clearly a prisoner of state. Gradually, however, he won the support of his jailer and elements in the local Kurdish population, and his influence continued to increase, even alarming the Russian ambassador, who was fearful of unrest amongst the Shi'is of Russian Azerbaijan. Accordingly, in April 1848, the Bab was transferred to the even more remote fortress of Chehrik, where he was placed under stricter confinement. Even under these conditions, however, the Bab was able to communicate with his followers through particular disciples. His public popularity also continued to surge, and many miracles were attributed to him, and even the water from the public bath in one town in which he stayed was taken away by the populace, who believed that it was endowed with sacred power after the Bab had used it. Now let's turn to events in Tabriz and Badasht. Although Babism had already emerged as a distinctive and heterodox religious movement, it remained essentially part of Shi'i Islam until the summer of 1848, when the Bab openly announced his claim to be the Imam Mahdi. The implications of this announcement were revolutionary. It marked the era of the resurrection, the Qiyamah, and represented a challenge to the entire social order, including both secular and religious authorities. This second declaration was made first in a letter written towards the end of his imprisonment in Marku, presumably early in 1848, and circulated widely amongst the leading Babis. The declaration was made again in July 1848, when the Bab was brought before a religious tribunal in Tabriz, the capital of Iranian Azerbaijan, this time in the presence of the Crown Prince, who was then governor of the province. Accounts of the Tabriz trial vary, see Abbas Amanat's book, but it is clear that the assembled clerics, all of whom sheikhs, sought to ridicule the Bab, dismissing his claims and asking him to perform a miracle if he really was the Mahdi. The Bab replied that his proof was the revelation of verses, but the clerics only faulted his grammar. Given the widespread popular support for the Bab in the province, the government authorities appear to have tried to defuse the situation. Nevertheless, at the insistence of the Bab's most determined clerical opponents, the Bab was given the bastinado, beaten on the soles of his feet with a cane, no doubt in part to humiliate him. A religious fatwa, a legal pronouncement, was also issued against him, declaring him an apostate, but granting a reprieve from execution if there was doubt as to his sanity. The Bab was afterwards returned to the prison of Chehrig. The impact of the Bab's dramatic declaration in Tabriz was reinforced by news of the conference of Badasht, held sometime in June and July 1848. Accounts of this meeting again vary, but its challenging impact is clear. Held in a remote hamlet in northern Iran, it brought together a number of the leading Babis and others to discuss plans for future action. In particular, it was necessary to work out the implications of the Bab's claim to Mahdihood and to plan some response to his continuing imprisonment. Two rival positions emerged. One, vehemently proposed by Tahareh, was that the time had now come to abandon constraint, oppose the forces of unbelief, and prepare to establish the Messianic kingdom of the Mahdi. The Islamic Sharia was no longer in effect, she said, a point she emphasized by removing the veil from her face, and on one occasion appearing in men's clothing and on horseback with a drawn sword to urge the other Babis to action. In all this, she was at first opposed by Mullah Muhammad Ali Bafarushi, known as Qudus, Holy, one of the Bab's closest disciples, who had accompanied him to Mecca. Qudus insisted on continuing constraint and quiet piety, and denounced Tahareh as heretical. By the end of the meeting, however, Qudus had abandoned his opposition, and the two were reconciled. Thus, a definite radicalization of the movement had occurred. What was then intended is uncertain. Attacked by villagers on their journey from Badasht at the end of the conference, the Babis scattered. The events of Badasht had been extremely traumatic for many of them. One man had tried to kill himself at the sight of Tahareh, for the Babis, the embodiment of purity, unveiled. Others had abandoned their faith. Yet others openly broke with Islamic practice, either to gratify their selfish desires, those are the words of the Baha'i historian Nabil, or as a deliberate act to proclaim the new day. News and rumours about Badasht soon spread, creating considerable scandal. Many of the Babis interpreted Tahareh's behaviour as a messianic act, but to others it was an indication of immorality. This was certainly the position taken by Muslim opponents, but even Mullah Hussein, on hearing a report of the conference, reportedly threatened to scourge its participants or even to kill them. So I think we'll finish there for the moment, and I'll continue with the rest of the chapter in the next video. Thank you for listening. If you like these videos, you're welcome to subscribe to my channel. I'll try to answer any questions you may have in a future video. Anyone who wants to support the development of the channel can do so through Patreon or PayPal. I'll give details below the video. You can also click the like button so that I can get an idea of which videos are of greatest interest to viewers. Do have a good day. Thank you.